Big-name designers reap the glory and celebrity in the glamorous fashion world, but designer clothes would be nothing without the luxurious textiles from which they are made. In this Elements of Style, we'll take a behind-the-scenes look at the many artisans who painstakingly craft the fibers of fashion. Those who appreciate the finer things in life should cozy up to Ballantyne cashmere.
The Balentine, we say, is like a fine wine. It improves through time.
Luxury fabrics are given precise and complex pleats thanks to the deft hands of craftsman Gerard Lognon.
Handmade is something you can't do with a machine.
The human touch of a handcrafted item also distinguishes artisanal pieces created by weaver Anne Corbiere, as well as French lace maker Mylène Salvador. The Highlands meet high fashion at Lochcarron of Scotland.
It always goes back to the inspiration of traditional Scottish tartans and checks, and that's really what we've become known for.
Plus, see the opulent fabrics crafted at Luigi Bevilacqua and more. In the pastoral Scottish countryside lies Ballantyne cashmere, producer of some of the world's most luxurious cashmere collections.
Ballantyne is a company that's about 60 years old, and we are the only world brand for cashmere. Classic is a big part of our business, but to get into new, younger, more fashionable shops, we have introduced the Vision collection.
The things that Ballantyne really stand for are quality, which we're always going to have, because even if we're making a garment that is more modern and younger and funkier, all of those quality aspects still apply to every garment we make.
Managing director of Ballantyne, William Ovens, took us through the process of creating these garments.
This is the yarn store. We keep all our qualities of yarn in here, which are cashmere. That's the main fibre we produce in. The cashmere comes from China. It comes from the underbelly of the cashmere goat. Many people don't realise that you actually need the down from 4 goats to make one sweater. We have one of the widest ranges of colours in the business. There's 105 available in the cashmere quality. Most of these colours are in fact unique to Ballantyne. Now, this is the hand and tarsa department. Intarsia means inlaying of yarn. Ballantyne has become synonymous with intarsia. It has become a generic name for intarsia. This garment that we're looking at just now takes over a week to knit, the 4 panels. In the past, the majority of pattern styles were made on these hand and tarsa machines, but with modernisation and new technologies and requirements to cut costs, many companies have moved to machines which produce a similar effect, but one can always tell the hand intarsia product because there's a much clearer and cleaner definition of line. It's important to note at this stage that the yarn we've seen and the panels of fabric here do not feel at all like cashmere because the yarn has oil in it, which is necessary to prevent the yarn breaking during knitting. Ballantyne is renowned for knitting very tightly, and that means the garment is going to last far longer and actually improve through time. So after knitting, we have 4 panels, the front, the back and 2 sleeves. The next operation, or the next department, is the finishing department, where we construct the garment together. So this is body linking, and this is where we join the garment across the shoulder and underneath the arm. Some styles require about 50 minutes of linking themselves. So there's a lot of work, a lot of care and attention to put in at this stage. This is the output of the body linking stage. I think you'll agree it doesn't resemble a finished Ballantyne product. So next we have the seaming stage, and that is where you're actually joining the garment together at the sides. So this is a garment after it's been seamed. You can see it's joined up. This is probably one of the most important operations within the makeup of a Ballantyne garment. This is where we wash the garments, remove the oils that I've mentioned before, and bring the garment to life. The water comes from the hill directly behind the factory. It's dammed straight into the factory. The next stage is to dry the garments, and this is the tumble drying process. Next we have a completely thorough, comprehensive examination for any faults at all. In fact, the finishing of a Ballantyne product is so good, it's been said that you could actually wear a Ballantyne inside out. The Ballantyne, we say, is like a fine wine. It improves through time. It gets softer and softer. We see garments 60 years old, as good as new. In fact, better than new.
Handmade lace was once a luxury save for kings. Today, the most celebrated couture houses travel to the village of Bayeux, France, to seek out lace maker Mylène Salvador.
Modern life, with all of its conveniences, has made handmade lace disappear from the region. By chance, I visited here in Normandy and discovered in the museum window this old lace-making handiwork. I became completely fascinated by it, and I had to find it again and learn to do it myself. I studied the intricate weaving work from enlarged photographs of museum works like this one. Little by little, I mastered the technique.
The marriage of handmade lace and the incomparable couture skills of the designers make for an exquisite final product.
It takes 6 to 7 years of practice to learn to do everything from the first design to the most complicated interlacing. If the designer wants something very precise and fabulous, this cannot be mass-produced. Lace making is piecework on demand. We are the kind of specialty workroom that can make special one-of-a-kind items.
Une petite pièce. Nous, on peut répondre justement à ce genre de demande.
I am working with Hermès, John Galliano at Christian Dior, Olivier Lapidus, and Oscar de la Renta. That piece on the wall is Oscar de la Renta for the Balmain Haute Couture line. That piece took a couple of months to weave. John Galliano is thinking all the time about new designs, and I translate his ideas into reality. Oscar at Balmain draws me sketches and sends them to me, and we go back and forth. It's like composing a musical composition that goes on forever. There is no end to what I do, and life is short.
A lot of people imagine that weaving is sort of nice women's work. Sometimes when one is going at a fast rhythm, it's actually quite aerobic. You know, I stop after 10 minutes and take a breath. But that's one of the things I personally like about weaving, is the physical aspect of it.
In a converted farmhouse 300 kilometers outside of Paris lives weaver Anne Corbiere. From this picturesque setting, the Oregon-born Corbiere creates one-of-a-kind textiles that are in demand by Paris's leading couturiers.
It's kind of a family tradition. My grandmother wove, and it goes back several generations. And I loved it, and spent 2 years very intensely learning the techniques around weaving. Most often I start by each season doing research, the designers. Sometimes they'll come to me with the fabric and say, can you interpret this? When it's the most rich is when there's a real exchange, a real collaboration. I enjoy being much more involved in the project. And that's a relationship I have very specifically with Lacroix. Lacroix was seduced by the idea of it being a kind of a quilted effect. It goes from very fine down to something quite heavy. This is a piece I did for Lacroix a couple of years ago. I do also quite a bit of dyeing on my pieces. This was a graduated dye. Weaving is about creating all these different structures, which is the way the yarns cross. And then mixing, I throw the weft back and forth with each time I pedal to create the different rhythms of color and texture. The satisfaction in having this yarn come towards one, and then as it comes back out, it's become transformed into a fabric. The other thing that always intrigues me with a hand-woven fabric is that every single millimeter of yarn has gone through my fingers. I regret that what I do has to be expensive simply because of the time I personally put into it. Artisans who are working with the couture, it is something that we must all continually strive for, new ideas and new research. We go to couture for the specialty of it, the uniqueness of it. It is decadent in a way, and at the same time I would call it essential.
A journey into the green Scottish countryside brings us to the picturesque Lochcarron Mill in Galashiels, where we get a lesson in first-rate textile design and manufacturing from the world's leading tartan experts.
Well, the company of Lochcarron was started by my father, but they used the name Lochcarron from the old shed up in the north as a trading name. And that's really how the name Lochcarron is synonymous now with Galashiels. It started as a hand weaving unit, and gradually we adapted, we expanded and needed more modern machinery to do different types of fabrics.
The property includes everything from a historical museum to its own power source, natural spring water.
Well, the river's, it's a tributary to the Tweed. It's the River Gala, and that's where Galashiels got its name. A lot of these small, fast-flowing rivers that led into the Tweed became the sort of base for textile industry. They required water for various purposes, for washing the fabrics, for dyeing, and also for power. The design aspect isn't huge in the tartan thing, of course. I mean, normally on a fabric you would start with creating it, designing it. As far as we're concerned, we have set types of cloth that we do specifically for purposes in tartan. We buy the spun thread. We don't spin the actual yarn now, and we buy the spun thread in white. And we dye that to the colours required in package form, which you'll have seen probably when you were going around the factory. But once that's done, it's then fed into the weaving machines, the looms. The threads are actually tied to the previous threads that were in the loom, each one to the other one, which is the quickest way of bringing the new design into the loom. And once that's done, then off it goes. Normally for kilts, we would use the traditional looms with shuttles, because when the shuttle goes across and comes back, it creates a complete clean edge with the thread coming out and then going back in again. And that's required for the end of the kilt, because it's a clean, it doesn't have a hem, so it has to have a clean selvage. On the fashion side, we use more faster modern machines, and we don't have shuttles. The thread gets pulled across and then it's cut off. So you have a raw edge to that cloth, but then it's not required, the edge isn't required in traditional, normal clothing. So we can put a lot of our cloths through these faster modern machines for the fashion industry.
After their meticulous design and manufacturing processes, the factory employs a team of quality control experts to check and mend the fabrics by hand. Many top fashion houses seek the expertise of Lochcarron for their collections.
Well, one of the main fashion companies that we've dealt with over the last probably 10 years or so has always identified with tartan, and yet is at the real cutting edge of the fashion industry, is Vivienne Westwood.
Everybody loves tartan. You can put tartan with velvet, lace, fur, linen, gold. It just always looks heroic and marvellous.
And from starting with traditional tartans, she quickly adapted these to her own purposes and her own colour schemes, and it's been great fun seeing some of the amazing creations that have come through the weaving shed on her instructions. And with the assistance of her designers and our designers working together.
This factory is incredibly flexible. They probably still have quite old machinery which they didn't throw away, and it's one of the great successes of the English fabric producing world.
So now we tend to work fairly regularly with the designers who will discuss their programme for the following year, and we work and create designs that will suit them. But it always goes back to the inspiration of traditional Scottish tartans and checks, and that's really what we've become known for.
India has long been renowned for its artisanal dyeing techniques and vibrant hues. Superfine all-dye processes, based in New Delhi, is responsible for carefully imbuing popular pashmina shawls with a rich palette of Indian colors.
I actually did diploma in dyeing in 48, and I started my business in 50. My experience is about 52 years in dyeing. I did only dyeing. There are many processes. We have to remove the impurities of the fabric, wash it properly, then dye it. Sometimes it takes 4 or 5 hours to match the color, but sometimes it is half an hour, sometimes it is 15 minutes. Previously, it was being dyed in mud vessels also in India.
It's really a craft, a work that has to be understood, loved, and appreciated.
Set off Venice's Grand Canal stands the legendary Luigi Bevilacqua Weaving Company. A family-run enterprise built on a heritage of rich traditions, Bevilacqua has catered to everyone from designers to popes.
This factory was born 200 years ago when my great-great-grandfather bought these looms from a Venetian silk manufacturer. At that point, the Bevilacqua family started its adventure in fabric production in Venice.
I remember coming here when I was young, and I clearly remember that hammering noise of the looms working. It was very evocative.
There's a certain rhythm to production. The looms can produce 30 centimeters a day only if things are going smooth. The fabrics are primarily utilized for home interior work. However, many didn't start out as such. Velvet, damask, and brocade all came from the clothing.
The interior designer makes choices according to a space. On the other hand, the designer utilizes the fabric to make a personal statement. These two fabrics we made for the designers Dolce & Gabbana. They are from our designs, our historical archives, but the designers proposed them in their colors. For the individual at the loom, it's not simply a person making the machine move. The weaver creates the work. It comes directly out of her own hands. The piece grows a little bit at a time. It's a learning process, a schooling that comes during the moment of production. These are a lot of different styles. This is a Venetian print, and there are ones with specialized motifs. For example, this is an Indian motif. Here's a printed leopard, used a lot for fashion.
Venice has 1,000 years of history. Altogether, it's a way of life that helps us work.
There's a tranquility and peace. There's not a lot of noise from automobiles, only the occasional boat that passes.
Haute couture began centuries ago, with designers seeking the assistance of skilled craftsmen. France is one of the countries that still supports its artisans. Case in point, pleat maker Gerard Lognon, who likens his craft to a favorite delicacy.
Tell me the difference between caviar and pâté. Caviar is better because it's more expensive. It's not because it's more expensive that it is better. Handmade is something you can't do with a machine. That you can't do with the machine. The molds are made by hands, and we work with our hands.
Lognon carries on his family business and, in fact, still employs the same painstaking methods used by his ancestors, only now world-famous designers come knocking.
They come and see me because it's easier to work here on my tables, and they bring always their material, what they want, the shape, and I show what I can do, and then together we decide what to do. This is Christian Lacroix with a special pleatings here. John Galliano, again Thierry Mugler, Jean-Paul Gaultier. We made this for Givenchy. You have another one which I like very much. It was made for Mr. Alexander McQueen for Givenchy. And it's a special pleats in both sides with waves.
It all starts with the thousands of special pleat molds that line the walls of Lognon's studio.
This one was made by my grandfather 50 years ago, but it's working only once a day. And we know how to make it work.
Longtime pleat maker for Hermès, Lognon took us through his intricate process.
Now we are going to make in front of you a special fortini. We first made a pleat which was flat, and we are going to take it off his paper, and now we are going to put this flat pleat inside an accordion, like an accordion to make music.
After many hours of hard work, the fabric is ready to be set by using specialized ovens, which Lognon refers to as his bakery.
And we'll finish by the bakery. 1 hour, and we have a bake of several difference of temperature. It depends of the material we have. Here it's a scarf pleated for Hermès, and the magic in this, you only have the colors going out of the scarf. They have a round box, yellow, and it is put like that, like a roll inside. But to be safe, we send them like that to Hermès, and when they send it, they take it off and roll, put in the box. Voilà.
While Lognon is quite solitary in his work, he embraces the creativity surrounding him in Paris.
I like to work with people who create, and I have the chance to have in Paris many people who create things you can't find anywhere else.